Let's build this. Hi friends, this is CC and welcome to Hobby Hands. In this vlog, we're going to do a build of this, which is the Zvezda, and it's a 1/72 scale model of the Mi-24, which is the Hind. The model number is 7315, and the back of the box is a picture of the built model. Let's do a quick unboxing. So the first thing we see is the instruction manual, and it's a very thin instruction manual. It's got 3 color schemes with the decal guide as well, and it's a very busy looking instructions. And it looks like there's a lot of parts and a lot of steps to build this model. And there's a parts list at the back. So the first sprue contains the rotor blades and some of the wings, and the rotor blades are molded with some droop, which is nice. And there's a rotor head and a tail rotor, and a lot of little parts. There's a bit of flash, not too much, and some ejection pin marks, but they are not visible once you build them. Alright, so in this sprue you see one part of the fuselage. The panel lines are recessed, but not very deep, so let's run a scrubber through it to make it deeper. There's a pilot, two pilots. This sprue contains the other half of the fuselage, and it has some interior details and some of the cabin interior and cockpit details. This sprue contains the weapons, a bit of the cockpit, and there's more of the fuselage and the cockpit. Alright, so this sprue contains the clear parts. It's a bit soft, but it looks okay, quite clear. And the decal sheet is looking quite busy, a lot of little stencils. Alright, so what we'll do firstly for the Hind is we'll scribe the panel lines, or we'll rescribe the panel lines. The lines are not very deep, so let's just scribe it a bit deeper. Maybe run the scriber about 3 times. Alright, so the next step we'll do is the interior, so which includes the cockpit and the cabin area. Let's cut out the parts. Let's start building. Alright, with the pilot figures, just have to clean up the mold lines, and we'll do that by just scraping. Then we'll start painting the pilot. There's the 2 pilots, which have been given the base coat, and the cockpit parts all have been given a base coat, and we now give all the parts a clear gloss varnish. And we'll start putting some decals for the instrument panel. After that, we give the parts another clear gloss varnish to protect the decals, and then we put wash, firstly on the pilots, and then we clean off the wash on the pilots. We're just using a cotton bud and some enamel thinner. There you go. We'll do a bit of dry brush with white paint. This is to pick up the raised details on the pilots. Okay, now time to put wash on the interior parts, which includes the cabin and the cockpit. And the engine bay as well. Then we'll clean up the wash and leave nice neat panel lines. Okay, next thing we'll do is just a bit of weathering of the interior parts like the seats, the cockpit, the cabin area. Even the engine bay, and we'll also dry brush with some white. Time to assemble the cockpit, cabin and engine bay. A very detailed model. Here we're sticking the pilots into the cockpit. There you go. Finish building the cockpit and cabin. Looking very colorful there. Alright, once we're done, we'll give the whole interior parts and the pilot a flat clear varnish. Here we're dipping the clear parts into some floor polish. So we'll dip, shake off the excess and blot out any remaining polish onto a kitchen towel. And then we'll store it inside a box. Alright, so just showing you all the parts now, all the little sub-assemblies. So that's the cockpit and the cabin. That's the engine bay. And that's actually the engine. Alright, we'll do a bit of dry brush on the exhaust. And after that we'll attach the windows. So that's the interior. So it's got seats in there and it's got the engine and the doors. Alright, give it another coat of flat clear varnish and then let's assemble it into the fuselage. We've stuck it onto one half of the fuselage and we're going to just seal it up now. The parts don't fit very well, the two fuselage halves don't fit very well. We got to hold the two halves together with tape. You might be able to clean it up with putty. There's a gap there that needs to be filled up with putty. Same with the landing gear doors. And the joints of the two fuselage halves. So let's put the putty on now. And after that we sand off the putty. There's a fair bit of putty to be cleaned up. On the weapons as well. So we need to paint the edge of the canopy black. This is a set of masks. It's specially made for this model. It's gonna save me some time in the masking. Alright, what we need to do with the canopy is we need to mask it first, so it's easier to work with. And you can see that the masking is now all done there. The pre-cut masking is actually quite nicely made. It fits nicely. Alright, let's put the canopy pieces on. There's quite a few pieces to put on. Hopefully they fit okay. So I put a piece of masking tape on the bottom of that canopy piece so that I don't get my fingerprints on the inside of that canopy piece. Let's put those canopy pieces onto the fuselage now. Alright, and hold it together with a bit of tape. Alright, what I'm doing here is now giving the exposed canopy frames a coat of the interior grey color. And after that, we start doing some pre-shading. As you can see, I pre-shaded in black and white. After that, we start painting the camouflage colors. So it'll be between a sort of sandy brown and a green camouflage on the top of the fuselage. Like that. Now we prepare to paint the underside of the fuselage. We mask off the top side. Like that. And we also prepare all the weapons. Here I'm giving the underside the base color, which is like a sky blue. There you go, looking quite nice. And the maskings come off. Let's also remove all those other masking everywhere. Okay, all done. All the masking has been removed. Now we're giving the whole helicopter a clear gloss varnish. After that, when the varnish has dried, we give the whole helicopter now a aniline wash. Then we clean it off with a cotton bud and some enamel thinner. So next thing that we need to do is put on decals. So we'll put in the stencils first, and then after that we'll put the markings for the particular version that I want to build, which is that middle one. The decals are okay to work with, though not very clearly printed. It's a bit blurry. Now that all the decals are on, it looks more like a helicopter now. There's the bottom of the rotor blades, and they've also got a fair bit of detail. Alright, so now what we're doing is giving the whole helicopter another coat of clear gloss varnish, and this is to protect the decals. Once that varnish is dry, we go to the next step, which is we remove the doors which have been stuck on temporarily. We're going to build this with as many of the hatches and the doors open as possible. Here we're assembling the pylons onto the wing. That's the wingtip pylon. And let's open up the front, which is the air intakes. We are sticking the gun onto the side of the helicopter here. And we are also assembling the landing gears now. One thing I must say about the landing gear shafts is that it doesn't fit very well. We'll fit the wings onto the fuselage now. Looking quite good actually. This bit here that I'm sticking on is, I think that's the chaff dispenser. Alright, now putting the rotor head together. So we'll have the hub and then we'll stick on the rotor blades. This part of it is quite nicely done because the rotor blades just slot in there and they're not misaligned. We've got to stick on these control shafts for the rotor head. They're very small, so be careful when you're doing this one. And it's pretty much done for the rotor head. And that's a tail rotor. Alright, what I'm going to do now is to start weathering the aircraft. Just enjoy this bit, just put colors in there, make the aircraft colorful. The weathering paints also help to pick up the race details on the body of the aircraft and the rotor blades. Especially the rotor head, once you use weathering on the rotor head, it really stands out. Here we're using a bit of metallic colors as well. So on the underside we'll mostly use a grey weathering. Don't forget the wheels. So with the gun, we'll just put burnt metal blue and burnt metal red to simulate the heat marks. Also put some on the exhaust. Then we'll give the aircraft a dry brush of white. This is to capture all the race details and make those details stand out. The weapons as well, just put some highlights on the weapons with that white dry brush. So this is oil stains, so we'll put it near where the engine is. What we're doing here is putting in some soot. We'll put it near the exhaust. Alright, this is silver paint that I'm using, and I'm putting random spots onto the aircraft which simulates the paint chipping off. All done. So just giving the whole helicopter now a flat clear varnish all over. Okay, so what we're doing here is with the very tiny clear parts, which are actually the lenses of the lights, we're just sticking that on now. Here we're removing the canopy pieces that we want to assemble in an open position. And the doors, we're removing the doors as well. Alright, so just giving the door frames a black paint. This is actually called out in the instructions. Alright, so let's start putting the doors together now. So we want the doors to be in an open position. So firstly, let's remove the masking. There's a couple of clear pieces on the doors. Okay, all done now. So just removing the remaining couple of masking tape. This is for the windows. After that, we remove the masking tape on the canopy. I get quite nervous here. Hopefully the paint hasn't run underneath the masking tape. Sometimes it can happen, and then there's a lot of cleaning up to do if that's the case. There you go. There's a very tiny rod here that we need to stick in. This is the actuator for the front door. That's what we're attaching now, the front door. And it's a rear door for the canopy. Right, nearly finished, so just attaching the tail rotor blade onto the helicopter now. And there you go, we'll put on the main rotor, but we won't stick it on. I have limited space in my cabinet, so may store it with the blades off. That's the bottom of the rotor blade, as you can see a bit of detail. Alright, let's do some close-ups of the helicopter. That's the engine and air intake out of the helicopter. You can see the pilots. Fair bit of detail. Especially in the engine, the interior cabin, the cockpit. If you are building this, just build it slowly. Tail rotor blade. One wing. With the underwing weapons. There's a gun in front. There's a chaff dispenser. This is the exhaust. I've not stuck on the other exhaust because I wanted to open the engine hatch. I'll just shine a little torchlight into the interior of the helicopter, and you can see that there are some details in there. There you go. That's a gun. So this is a very detailed model because there's a lot of very tiny parts. Done. So now the whole aircraft is done. Well friends, I hope you enjoyed that vlog. Please subscribe to my channel and please give me a like. Please share the vlog with your family and friends, and please leave me some comments below. And of course, please give me some hype points. Thank you very much for watching. This is CC wishing you well and hope to see you the next time.